Electoral reforms. The success of parliamentary democracy depends on the political stability, which lies in the pure and honest electoral system. Democracy is the will of the people and their opinion, and whose opinion and the people's opinion is sacred. Hence, called as the voice of the people is the voice of the God. In this regard, educating people politically and strengthen the democratic system, reforms to the election system are necessary. So this electoral system ensures impartial, free and fair election through ballot papers but not bullets. In this regard, many committees were appointed by the successive government. The most important among them are: Number 1. V.K. Tarkunde Committee 1974-75. 2. Dinesh Goswami Committee 1990. 3. Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer Committee 1994. 4. Vancho Committee. 5. Indrajit Gupta Committee in 1998. 6. Justice Kuldeep Singh Committee in 2002. 7. Law Committee Reports. On the basis of the recommendation of the committee in the sense these committees, the government have implemented the following reforms. So these reforms including: Number 1. Electors Photo Identity Card, that is EPSC. Number 2. Electronic Voting Machine, EVM. 3. Mandatory disclosure of antecedents of the candidate. So let's explain in detail what are these. Number 1. Electors Photo Identity Card, that is EPIC. The EPIC is introduced by the then means at that time. So the EPIC introduced by the then Chief Election Commissioner T.N. Seshan in 1990 to 1996. Why? To conduct free and fair election in order to remove evil practices like corruption and impersonation or bogus voting. Impersonation or bogus voting means the vote which is not genuine. So EPIC is introduced by the then Chief Election Commissioner T.N. Seshan in 1990 to 1996. Reason: to conduct free and fair election in order to remove evil practices like corruption and impersonation. So this was introduced in India in 1993. So the arrangement were made to issue EPIC is to prevent impersonation or when someone pretend to be another person. So the arrangement were made to issue EPIC or Electors Photo Identity Card is to prevent impersonation of electors. Initially, it was difficult to issue identity card to all voters due to some technical problem. But during the term or the time of MS Gill, the possession of EPIC by the voters was made compulsory. So, Electors Photo Identity Card or EPIC is an official document issued by the Election Commission to all the eligible voters. It consists of information of voters, age, name, photo, gender, address, constituencies, date of issues, etc. Number 2. Electronic Voting Machine, that is EVM. The electronic voting machine or EVM is one of the important innovation of modern technology. So this electronic voting machine or EVM has replaced the system of ballot box and ballot papers with most effective electronic voting machine. So the EVMs were introduced for first time in 1998 in the Legislative Assembly election of some states, and it was successful. So this EVM was introduced first time in 1998 where in Legislative Assembly election in some of the states. Later on in the 14th Lok Sabha election they were used all over India. So in 14th Lok Sabha election this EVM, electronic voting machine, were used all over India. So the EVM consists of controlling unit and balloting unit. So there are two units named as controlling unit and balloting unit. So these both units are interconnected with a cable. So the balloting unit is kept in the place where the voters exercise votes, whereas the controlling unit is with the polling officer. After the voter proves his identity by pressing the blue button on the balloting unit against the candidate symbol, he casts his vote. With the beeping sound, the voting procedure is completed. Let's see what are the uses of EVM or electronic voting machine. Number 1. The first advantage is that preparation for polling is very less. The polling staff is required to get training and thus election process will be ended smoothly. Number 2. In this system, the use of EVM or electronic voting machine system, the pace of poll is very simple. Voter can press the button against the name of the candidate of his choice. Number 3. EVM can be easily operated and saves time. 4. With the use of EVMs, the printing of lakhs of ballot papers can be avoided and thus it is economic and eco-friendly. 5. EVM avoids invalid votes and irregularities and useful to illiterates also. Number 6. EVM ensures the principle of one man, one vote. 7. By using EVMs, accurate result can be declared fastly. Just now we have discussed about electoral reforms. So this reform includes a certain committee. On the basis of the recommendation of these committees, the government have implemented the following reforms. So in these reforms, it includes elector's photo identity card, electronic voting machine. After that, the most important part is mandatory disclosure of antecedents. Antecedents means a thing that existed before. So the mandatory disclosure, it is a compulsory disclosure of an antecedent of the candidates. Number 1, criminal. 2, education. 3, property. The candidate means the person who is ready to contest the election. So the candidate have to disclose their personal details. So the person who is ready to stand for an election, he has to disclose their personal details of criminal, education and property while filing their nomination. The reason why they are disclosing their personal detail is to facilitate the right candidate to contest and restrict the person with criminal background. So let's see what is criminal antecedents. So the criminal antecedents is there to curb or to check out the criminalization of politics. So the Supreme Court of India in 2002 gave direction to Election Commission to implement, and Parliament also amended the Representation of People's Act 1951 in December 2002. Here it means to check out the criminalization of politics if a candidate has a criminal record. So the Supreme Court along with Parliament also amended the Representation of People Act in December 2002. These both, they gave the direction with regarding to criminal antecedent. Let's see. Through this act, Representation of People Act, that is RPA Act, the submission of detail regarding criminal antecedent are made compulsory for all the candidates along with their nomination paper. That means if there is any cases or any criminal background of the candidate, he has to mention in the nomination paper. Why? To ensure right candidate to contest and restrict the person with criminal background. So the details of their cases or these candidates' cases pending against them in the courts, if they were either convicted or declared guilty of criminal offense or acquitted, or they are free. Next, the recent decision of the Supreme Court made it clear that the candidate having criminal records are debarred or excluded from contesting election, and members of legislature would lose their membership. Remember, the Supreme Court has given the decision that the candidate having criminal records are excluded from contesting election and the membership in the legislature would be lost. In this regard, the Election Commission has framed rules to restrict the candidates from contesting election. So let's see what are the disqualification for criminal offences is provided in RP Act, or it can be told as Representation of People Act 1951. Number 1. As per the Act, a person is disqualified from contesting election only on conviction or sentence by the court of law. Number 2. Cases filed 6 months before election would lead to disqualification. If the candidate's case is filed 6 months before election, it leads to disqualification. Number 3. Cases in which candidates have accused with the offence and sentenced for 2 or more years are disqualified to contest for election. So, if the cases in which candidates have accused with the offence and sentenced for 2 or more years are disqualified to contest election. Number 4. With the offence proved by the court of law. So here the offence is proved by the court of law. A person is not eligible to contest election for a period of 6 years. So the availability of detailed information about the candidates through media enables the public to select and elect the candidate having clean records with service motto. So these are all about the criminal antecedent. Next we are learning about the educational antecedent. So the candidate has to file an affidavit to give information relating to his educational qualification. Being representative of the people who this candidate, one has to be educated and actively take part in the proceeding of the legislature, administration and in law-making process. Though the Constitution has not mentioned any education qualification to the candidates, this disclosure enables the voter to elect qualified person. Number 3. Property antecedents. Contesting an election is an expensive affair. Here, listen carefully. Person with good education but dearth or lack of funds may hesitate to contest election, whereas people with money power get elected and amass or gather together more wealth. Thus, this leads to corruption. In order to curb or to check corruption, the Election Commission has made mandatory or compulsory to declare the detail of movable and immovable property of candidate and his family members. So the movable property refers to movable assets such as computer, jewelry, vehicles, etc. Whereas immovable property is used commonly to refer to real estate such as house, factory, manufacturing units, etc. So in order to curb corruption, the election commissioner has to make compulsory or mandatory to declare the details of movable and immovable property of candidate and his family members. This disclosure, property antecedent, helps the voter to access the honesty or otherwise of the candidate.